Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well. It's Curtis. I'm not doing well. I just filmed this whole commentary and another commentary video and the audio wasn't working, so hopefully it's working now. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make pastry and how to blind bake it and everything. Like, I've had this channel for 6 months now, and I'm a pastry chef and I've not even shown you how to make pastry. Like, what is going on there? This recipe is going to be really useful for the next video I'm about to upload. And I've done the full written recipe on my blog. I finally launched it and everything. So all the measurements and everything will be on there, and I'll also leave that in the description box below. So make sure you check that out and subscribe to the blog via email so you get notified every time I post on there. It's just acornbakes.com. It's as simple as that. So I'm gonna go straight into this recipe and I hope you enjoy it. In a bowl, I've just got some plain flour, and I'm just going to throw my butter in there, and I'm also going to add in my sugar. If you want this to be savoury pastry, you simply just don't add in the sugar. So the ratios that I use is a 2:1 flour to butter. I've used 400 grams of flour here, so I'm using 200 grams of butter. And then for my sugar, whatever the weight of the butter was, I halved that, so it was 100 grams of sugar that I used. So it's really, really easy to remember these ratios, guys. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just rubbing it in between my fingers so I get a nice sort of breadcrumb texture. It's also really important that you're using cold butter for this. Once I've got that texture, I then pour in about 25 milliliters of ice cold water. I just sort of try to incorporate that so the mixture starts to come together. Once it started to come together, I'm gonna pour that onto a floured surface, and I'm kind of just gonna sort of clump it and knead it together just until it's nice and combined. If it's feeling a little bit dry, you can add a little bit more water, but you do want it to be a little bit of a dry mix because you're not wanting to make like a scone dough or anything like that. Once I've made my pastry, I just cover that with some cling film, and I'm gonna pop that in the fridge for about an hour, 2 hours, like something like that, just until it gets nice and firm. So next what I'm doing is I'm just greasing my tart tin with a little bit of butter. I always grease a tart tin, whether it's non-stick or like whatever. Like, in my opinion, non-stick anything is fake news. So once I've greased my tart tin with a little bit of butter, I then sprinkle some flour in there, and I just kind of knock it all the way around so it coats the sides of the tart tin as well. Once my pastry is rested, I'm going to start to roll it out using a French rolling pin on a floured surface. I'm just mainly using the weight of the rolling pin. I'm not really applying much pressure because I don't want this to be uneven at all. And notice every time I roll it, I turn it round as well. If it starts to get a little bit heavy and awkward to turn around, I use the rolling pin to help lift it up and turn it round. Once my pastry is like 1 or 2 millimeters thick, I then get my tart tin and place it over just to make sure that my pastry is rolled out long enough. And then I kind of get a knife and I just get rid of most of the excess, just that so when I line my tart tin, it's a little bit more accurate. So I just roll it over onto my rolling pin and I just line it over my tin. I pick up the pastry from the edges and just lift it up so I can just get it into all the corners. And then what I like to do is I get a little bit of the off piece, roll it up into a ball, and I use that to sort of push it into all of the corners because it's a lot softer on my fingers, and I'm a little bit clumsy with my fingers, so I don't really trust myself to do it. I then dock my pastry, which is what it's called. Basically, I'm just sort of indenting it with a fork, and that's going to prevent it from rising as I bake it. Then I get a little bit of parchment paper and some baking beans, and I pour that straight into my tart case. I'm using a mixture of actual baking beans and like some dried lentils and rice because I worked out that's a lot cheaper than baking beans. So once my baking beans are in there, I'm just gonna pop that straight into the oven at 190 degrees centigrade. And I'm gonna bake that for about 25 minutes. Once that time's up, I'm gonna take my baking beans out. I'm gonna bake my tart case for about 10 more minutes at 160 degrees centigrade this time. Once that time's up, we should be left with a lovely golden brown tart case. As you can see, I've got all the overhang of pastry still on there. What I like to do is get in a small serrated knife, I just sort of shave it down and it just sort of falls off. You can cut this off before putting it in the oven, but I just prefer the finish doing this, so it's just my personal preference. And that's how you blind bake and make a short crust pastry. I hope you guys liked my method and my recipe, and if you did, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Both those buttons are just down there. And make sure to check out my blog. Like I mentioned, I got the full written recipe on there, and all the measurements are in the description box below. So it's just a little bit easier for you guys to sort of refer back to. And yeah, I'll see you guys on my next video, which is like in a couple minutes from now. So until then, take care and bye.